I think you come to the Bell game to win it. Wabash always fight.
Hello and welcome to the Don Morel Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. And Coach, obviously a special week, and we want to get into that here in just a little bit. But first, a great win this past Saturday, a win in the regular season home finale over Hiram, a 49-25 victory. It was a game that every week we talk about Liam Thompson does this, Liam Thompson does that. Well, now all Liam Thompson did was throw for 450 yards in a 19-mile-an-hour sustained wind. That's a single game career record for him. He threw for 4 touchdown passes. You ran for 3 touchdowns, and you jumped out to a 28-0 lead on the way to that victory. I watch Liam play, and I know what type of player he is and what type of talent surrounds him as well. But in those type of circumstances, when you had all this strange weather and it looked like it was going to be a game where you run the football, for him and the rest of the offense to be able to play that well, just as a tribute to those young men and what they do.
It really is. We feel like we're kind of peaking at the right time. The conditions were horrible, especially if you were a kicker. And I want to thank the fans that came to the game, because that couldn't have been much fun sitting in that wind all afternoon. But our team handled it. They've handled the business, when we get the trap game comment all the time. Handled it well, and they did a good job. I think it is interesting. Kenyon is an improving football program, and Coach Ian Good has done a nice job over there.
You mentioned them being an improving program. They have 2 of the top wide receivers in the conference, number 1 and number 2, but your defense really did a good job against them, especially against Kim. Really took him away, forced them to really look to a couple of different receivers. They did have some later success, but you're able to shut them out in the early going while amassing that 28-0 lead.
We did, and there's no secret. Our defense is a work in progress, but we feel like once we settle down after the first or second quarter, we get better and better and better. And it has taken 8 weeks for some guys to learn the system, but it's coming along.
You mentioned a tough day for the kickers. It was not a tough day for Brigham Anderson in that kind of wind. He was perfect on his extra points. Brody Rucker continues to be a good weapon on kickoffs. I mean, that's a group that has really developed as well over time.
They have all improved. Steve Rogers works with them every day. It's been a project for him. Brody Rucker's just a freshman, really strong leg. We haven't seen that since Ian McDougall in 2015. And then Brigham handling, I think it was referring more to if you were a punter, it was no fun. Mm-hmm. The ball actually moved when you dropped it to your foot because of the wind, but we got through it.
Of course, big game coming up this weekend, the Monon Bell game. We'll get into that in just a few minutes, but I did have a chance earlier this week to talk to 2 assistant coaches for the Little Giant program who also played in the Monon Bell game. Defensive line coach Brian Watson and offensive line coach Omi Olmstead. Had an opportunity to ask them what it was like to play in the Bell game and now coach in it, and what some of their favorite memories were. Let's hear from both of them, starting with Omi Olmstead. Joining us today on the interview segment of the Don Morel Show, assistant coach Omi Olmstead, the offensive line coach for the Little Giants. And Coach, you had the chance to not only coach in the Monon Bell game since you came back to Wabash as an assistant coach, you played in the Monon Bell game. What's it like to be a coach on the sidelines in a game that you have such rich history of as a player?
Well, the first thing I'd say, Brent, is it's an absolute honor to serve Wabash College and our community in the role that I have as the offensive line coach. And to use offensive line play as, frankly, my tool to educate men within the mission statement of our college. This Monon Bell game certainly is a pinnacle of our season and of our program. It is an incredible honor to have this position and really work with these young men to bring this bell or keep the bell, depending on the year.
What's one of your favorite memories, either as a player or as a coach, in the Monon Bell Classic?
I think it's hard to pinpoint one specific memory. When we are fortunate enough to have played well enough to keep the bell or bring the bell home, just seeing the joy in our players' eyes as a coach and how much this means to not only the Wabash community but the Crawfordsville community as well, giving them a chance to really support what Wabash is about and see the just the culmination of all the hard work and preparation and just the positive joy around our campus and community that goes along with winning the Monon Bell game. Certainly recognize how important that is, not only to our football program, but to the campus community as a whole. If I had to pinpoint one memory as a player, then it would most certainly be when I had an opportunity to walk off the field after my last play as a senior down in Greencastle and was greeted on the sidelines by not only my teammates knowing that my career had come to a close, and then I turned and there was my father, and we had an opportunity to hug each other and know that that was a great way to close out a career.
Great way to close out a career indeed. Coach, best of luck on Saturday in the 128th Monon Bell Classic.
Thank you.
That's Omi Olmstead, offensive line coach for the Little Giants. Coming up next, we'll have a quick interview with Brian Watson, defensive line coach, also a former player for the Little Giants. Second part of our interview with the assistant coaches on the Wabash football team. Joining us now is Brian Watson, the defensive line coach, and also a former Wabash college football player. And Brian, as someone who has played in a Monon Bell game and now coaches in Monon Bell games in the past and will coach this Saturday, what's that experience like to know and understand what the players are going through on the field in that rivalry game, and to be able to talk to them about that as a coach, to prepare them for that, and to experience it with them during the game?
So obviously this game holds a tremendous amount of weight, and it's quite a privilege to not only just play in this game, but to coach in it as well. And we understand what sort of happiness this generates in the Wabash community. I mean, this really is the pinnacle of our football season, and it's a heck of a lot of fun. And just being able to communicate to our players that the Wabash community is behind them, and that just to, as best they can, treat it as just another game.
You've been around this game, as I said, as a player and a coach for a few years now. Is there a special memory that you have, either as a player or as a coach, from the Monon Bell game?
So obviously last year's game, the comeback was it was awesome to be a part of, especially for the seniors that I was coaching in my unit last year. David Marsh and Seth Burrish, to be able to look at them and realize that they help them realize that they got the job done. They played well in that game, and obviously seeing the happiness that generated in the Wabash community for that game. And as a player, it's hard for me to pinpoint just one, but the biggest memory that sticks with me is in 2009 when we won my senior year. The Wabash community kind of converged on the bell, and I made sure to find my parents and my family and spend that moment with them. And I actually got to spend the moment the Monon Bell arrived on campus with my dad. There's a video on YouTube of it, in 2009 quality, not very great, but just being able to, win that game and find my parents and then, hugging my dad afterwards in the chapel was a really special moment for me.
Coach, thank you so much for the time. Best of luck on Saturday in the Monon Bell Classic.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
That's Brian Watson, defensive line coach for the Little Giants. Now back to the rest of the Don Morel Show. There's a chance for you to hear from both Coach Omi Olmstead and Coach Brian Watson about their memories of the Monon Bell game. Now there's a chance to make new memories. And my first question for you going into this weekend's Bell game against DePauw, this really seems like a game where it is going to be strength against strength. Obviously, an outstanding offense for Wabash, a strong running game, the nation's leading passing game We all know what Liam Thompson, again, and the offense, the receivers, the running backs, the offensive line can do. And this DePauw defense, extremely stalwart. You're going to face a real test on Saturday.
We are. I think regardless of the capabilities of either team, just playing in the Bell game brings out the best in everyone. And there have been some incredible Bell game performances from guys who did not have a great year at all, but they save it for the big one. And that's on both sides.
Defensively, their calling card on offense has been their running game. That's where they've been the most consistent. Wally Rennie, their starting quarterback, has missed the last 2 games, but he played limited action on Saturday in their game against Oberlin. You've got to expect that he'll be the starter on Saturday for DePauw. That's what their game notes have listed. And it's the Bell game. You know you're going to go out to try and play in that ball game. What do they bring offensively that your defense has to prepare for?
They're very talented at the wideout spot with Trayshaw and Jalen at the other wide receiver. 2 explosive players, really, really good wide receivers. And then Gus Baumgartner at running back is a talented, tough kid. And they have a physical downhill run game we're going to have to be prepared for. And if you do too much in the run game, they're going to get you in the pass game.
This is a game where something strange always seems to happen. You get a strange play, a strange call. How do you as coaches, how do the players deal with those emotional moments, not getting too caught up in that moment and just continuing to play the game when you've got 8,000 fans, a TV audience, all of the other things surrounding the game going on?
We're fortunate we have a number of returners who have played in last year's game or even the 2019 game. So it really helps to have guys who are playing in their second Bell game. It's giant. And then also you have to understand in this game there are huge momentum swings, and I think it's a team's ability to survive the momentum swing.
Like a 21-0 deficit.
Absolutely. Or, DePauw hitting a super long pass in 2019 to beat us. Those things happen in this game.
Game is at DePauw. Is there an advantage to the fact that normally during the season you're on the road on Friday, then you're in the hotel, you kind of get the guys to yourself? Or is it a disadvantage because now Friday night they're going to be off doing their own thing, and then you get together Saturday for your shortest road trip of the season? You will take everyone, and it is, so there's the logistics of getting all the buses, all the transportation, getting guys down there, getting into locker room space, things like that. Is it harder, or does that even matter because it's the Bell game?
Well, I don't think it matters as much. I think when you host a game, there's a huge distraction for 2 weeks because you've got 24 construction workers building bleachers during your practice. So that's kind of the negative of hosting the game. But I think the enormity of it all takes care of itself. There's a basketball game Friday evening. I think our kids will probably go to that, then they'll get to bed.
Every day at practice this week, the bell has been on the sideline ringing. The students bring it over from the chapel, take it back at the end of practice. Is that something that, for your freshman players, provides an opportunity to talk about the importance of this game and what it means to the upperclassmen who fought so hard to win that bell last year?
It does. And interesting side note, I got an email from the Sphinx Club president last week, and he said, Coach, I have heard that in the past the bell would come out to practice and we would ring it. And then it occurred to me that this time last year we didn't have the bell. The year before was COVID, so we had gone with really 3 classes who knew nothing about the bell. So we're kind of, I hate to bring up COVID, but we're getting back to normal around here completely.
And normal is what we hope to have on Saturday. The Monon Bell will kick off at 1:07 p.m. That's because we have regional television. Our thanks to the ISC network. You'll be able to watch that either on the various channels that ISC will present the game on, Comcast, Xfinity Channel 81 in the Indianapolis and surrounding area. You can also catch it on the ISC Facebook page, on their YouTube channel. We will have it at our normal broadcast point, which is sports.wabash.edu/WCVN. It's also available on DePauw's normal video channel. It'll be available on our regular video app for the Wabash College Video Network. There is a smattering of tickets left. If you would like to show up in Greencastle and see the game in person, we invite you to, but you need to go out on the Wabash website, go to the football sports, or go to sports.wabash.edu/tickets. There is a link for Monon Bell tickets if any remain by the time you watch this show. Steve Hoffman, again, will be on that broadcast along with Brad Wakamerka and Greg Rakestraw, the host of various events on ISC, as well as the post-game host of the Indianapolis Colts, is the play-by-play announcer for that broadcast. Coach, best of luck on Saturday. We'd be remiss if we didn't say, it's a good chance to celebrate Wabash football. We invite people to be there early, to take in the entire game. And of course, as always, ding ding for DJ Singfield starting that phrase. We'll wish everybody best of luck and a safe Monon Bell Saturday. Good luck on Saturday.
Thank you.
You've been watching the Don Morel Show, your chance to hear the thoughts and comments of the head football coach of the Little Giant program. We'll talk to you next week with a win by Wabash. One other note, if Wabash wins, this is of course for a conference title and for an automatic berth to the NCAA tournament. If Wabash wins on Saturday, that tournament announcement will be 5 o'clock Sunday afternoon at ncaa.com. The Little Giants would find out what team and where they would be playing in the 2022 NCAA Division III playoffs. So hopefully we'll be back next week with more playoff news, and when we are, we'll talk to you then. Have a great day, everyone.
I think you come to the Belgium to win it. Wabash always fight.